Hey, what it do, baby? Boo! In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 jungle tips revealed by the rank number 1 jungle main on the NA solo queue ladder. Currently, Tarzaned is sitting number 1 on the solo queue ladder. We had an interview, I believe it was last week, and I asked him a ton of questions about how low elo junglers can climb out of low elo, and also some advanced jungle tactics that you can use to become the best jungler possible. So if you're interested to hear about stuff like the best jungle champions to climb with, the number 1 tip that took him to rank 1 in Season 8, and the key strategy he used to hit rank 1 in Season 6, then stay tuned to find out more. I don't know why I keep going like this. A few years ago, this dude came on the scene, and I came across some of his videos, and I heard all the fuss about him, about how he's super toxic and all that other shit. And then, I think it was a couple weeks ago, I was doing my work, okay, I was sitting down, I was at my laptop, and I had this thought in my head that I'd legit just email him. But I was like, maybe I shouldn't, because I'm little old Danyon, you know? I'm just a dude from OC who sucks dualies, or who maybe I know a little bit about jungle, but I'm definitely not up at that level. And I put it off. I put it off for like, I think about a week or so, and I kept writing it down on my to-do list. Message Tarzan, or email Tarzan. I actually gave up on it. I was like, okay, nah, I'm not gonna do it. And then one day, I was sitting at my computer, it was about 5 p.m, I was about to jump into... I was gonna do some more, YouTube surfing or play some games, just some more chill time. And I was like, why not? Why not just give him an email and see what happens? The worst that happens is he's gonna reject me and say fuck off, and that's terrible. So I emailed him, and about legit, like 3 or 4 minutes later, he said, hey, I've seen your videos as well. You seem like a pretty cool dude yourself or some shit. And I was like, yo, yes. We got, a conversation going. And then this interview is a result of that email. So without further ado, let's crack into the interview.
So the first question is, what would you say are the most important skills you need to master to climb as a jungler?
If you want to get to the highest brackets in terms of elo,
Mm-hmm.
I think understanding lane matchups, lane priority, and jungle matchup is probably the most important thing. Like lower elo, that stuff doesn't really matter. You can just do the same thing very commonly, but once you get to the higher brackets where people actually know what they're doing, you're gonna have to start playing off lane priority, knowing the matchups, etc., and knowing where to be at the right time.
Why do you think that transition when you get to high elo, that kind of stuff it's taken into factor?
I think it's more basically because players are better,
Mm-hmm.
so you're not gonna have the same routines every single game, and things are gonna be more unique because you're gonna be against LCS players if you're playing Challenger or Academy players. And most of them actually have mastered the basic fundamentals, like you said, of the game, so they know what they're doing for the most part. And that's where the extra umph comes in, where the matchups and such, I think is really important as a jungler. That's why sometimes back when I boosted, I would play other roles to learn the certain power spikes, the matchups, etc.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
Quick question, bro. Do you live next to a racetrack? No, jokes. I'm fully just joking.
Yes. No, I don't.
This is just like a random scenario that I just made up. There's a Bronze 3 jungle main watching this, and he's been playing for 2 years. He's got 1,000 games, and he's got a 50% win rate. And he can't climb to save his life, which is probably like half of the League of Legends players. No, jokes. What advice do you have for that person?
All right, so the basic tips I'll give someone is, in this meta, make sure to secure your first 2 buffs and get a crab. So before the timer hits 120 or such, you want to get your opposite side of where you're starting to war with the other skeletal crabs. Because if you have a bad matchup early game, you don't have to contest their crab. I think having 1 crab is pretty essential for the early game.
Okay.
But if you lose the next 2, it doesn't really matter to that extent. But getting a good early game is really important. Getting both your double buffs and level 3 as soon as possible, unless you want to go look for early cheeses if you play early game champions. The biggest advice I can give you is do your camps before ganking, because if you die, at least you're being efficient. Your camps are respawning. If you misplay, then it's not too bad. But typically, just do your camps before recalling. Spend all your gold before looking for fights, and try to time your recalls. So let's say your red buff is spawning in 30 seconds. You want to clear your top side, recall, and then once your red buff is spawned, you'll be there just in time for it. And you can maximize efficiency, so you have your items, and your pathing will be according to the red buff respawn. You can look for a play from that.
When I teach people how to play, because I have a few coaching clients and stuff, if they're low elo, I always tell them the same thing. I always tell them just to main a few champs, 2 or 3 champs, and just spam the dick out of them. But I saw in a video of yours, I think it was a couple of days ago, you said to play meta champions. Do you think my advice still plays a part somewhere? That's still good advice, or would you recommend people no, just play meta champs?
I think we're both in the right and both in the wrong for the most part. If you want to be successful in a specific meta, you have to pick the the correct champions, like early game champions that are, good right now.
Yeah.
As far as maining a specific set of champions, I think the meta for jungle has been shifted so many times recently. Like every year, there's a rework, so something's going to change for sure. And if you want to go with a few junglers that have always been meta, like I'd say Nunu as a champion, it's always been good. So if you become a one-trick Nunu, if you're like a new jungler, I think it's a good jungler to start off with. If you can find champions that have always been super good, then your advice can also work.
Now, these are just personal questions. What are your current goals for the game?
Honestly, I'm not really sure. My goal is to get rank 1, like I did in Season 6. I mean, the craving I had for rank 1 last year is kind of gone, and I'm glad to have refound that strive I had for the game. I would like to firstly finish rank 1, maybe go to Scouting Grounds if I can, and see where that takes me. I'm not really sure if I want to play professional anymore. I think it's probably too late because my name is kind of,
Yeah. What are your current skills in the jungle that you're trying to improve on specifically? Is there any weaknesses that you think you have that you're trying to improve, or?
If you want to beat me, if you're against me, basically just tell your laners to pick all early game champions and look for like collapses on me, because that's when I tilt and start getting upset, and you can tell my gameplay. If I get like 2 to 3 man early game, I'll get really pissed off, and I'll just play really bad ever since. But as far as my weaknesses, I say sometimes I over farm, and that's why I've tried a different playstyle this meta. It is early game meta, so I've started to farm it way less and just looked for going on lanes where I know I have an advantage in, because I have information where the enemy jungler is, and I know that my laner can set me up based off the champion matchups.
What are the strongest champions you'd recommend people? Then name 3 of them. 3 strongest champions you'd recommend people to play in 8.11.
For newer players or just everyone?
Let's go with both high elo and low elo players.
I think Pantheon is super underrated. I've had a lot of recent success with him on my account. Xin Zhao I think is still super good, even though his E got a minor nerf and his AD scaling. He's still super good for early game and mid game as well. Just late game is going to fall off super hard, and it's going to be more of a barrier rather than a one-shotter. And finally, I think Graze is also super good. I think Trundle is also like really easy to play, but his ganks are a bit weaker than those 3 champions, so you have to play against worse players for your ganks to be efficient.
I have this Facebook group where it's just a bunch of League of Legends players, and we kind of all help each other if anyone's got any questions, blah, blah, blah. There's a common theme that I get, and I'm sure you've gotten before, where low elo players, they think that there's some like secret to climbing, or they're always trying to look for quick fixes, or they're always trying to look for secrets to climb. Have you ever had that experience? Have you had people talking to you like that, or?
Not really. Typically, I just get like, is Twitch jungle good? Is Rek'Sai jungle good? Is Nidalee jungle good? People just ask me if champions are good. There's no really secret to elo, in my opinion. I think it's just about being consistent. The lower elo you are, the more often the simple things you will do will work more often, in my opinion.
What are your thoughts about the emotional stability you need to climb?
Season 6, I got a 2-week ban, and then I told myself, okay, I've never been so close. I've never been so high challenger, my last chance. And then I started telling myself, maybe I should try something else. Maybe I'm doing everything wrong the whole time. So I started having a positive attitude. Even when my teammates would mess up, I just said good job sarcastically. To put the image in my head where I'm flaming them, right? And it worked out. So I never got banned. I finished rank 1 that season. And same thing with this year. I've had a really good positive mental attitude towards my teammates. Even when they're losing, I tell them we can win. It's all good. Don't worry. We outscale, etc. All these things. People don't give up a lot in NA, so it's actually really helpful. You can win a lot of games from behind. And in this meta, if you can get like a Baron, you just win one team fight, get Baron, you can easily just win the game off that. So the lower elo you are, remember, like, the enemy team's just as bad as yours, so you can actually come back and win some games that seem unwinnable.
That's a really good point. It's funny that you say that, because you're obviously known on the internet for being like a little bit angry at sometimes and shit like that. But now that I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, by the way. I'm just saying that the fact that you're saying what you just said to be positive and all that shit, and you've had that past of being like maybe a little bit toxic and shit, to me that means that any person who's playing the game, they have those two options available. Like, you can be toxic, which maybe is the natural place that most people go. You know, the general player, they tend towards the spectrum of toxicity, but you can also take a step back, and you can change and condition yourself to start being a bit more positive and change your emotional state in a sense. So I think that's really important that you said that. What's the last piece of advice you could give for every low ego low elo jungle main out there wanting to climb?
Honestly, get familiar with the meta. Watch your videos or watch my videos if you want tips on how to get better. We both do, informational content. In terms of the meta right now, I'd recommend early game junglers, Pantheon, Graze, Zen, all come to mind, and just look for plays on the map. The lower elo you are, the more executable your ganks will be, and the better matchups you'll have in the jungle. Because most people play for fun. They don't really care about getting good jungle matches, but like getting good jungle matches is actually huge, because if you win 1v1, the odds are you'll win most of your 2v2s or 3v3s. That's how it goes for the most part in high elo. And you just have to use that to your advantage, and those small snowballs will snowball to something bigger and can eventually lead to towers, dragons, Rift Herald, Baron, Nexus, pretty much.
That's really good. It's the same thing when I go over people's replays. There's usually like 1 or 2 fights in the early game that heavily, like they fully dictated the win or loss, whether they won or lost that game. So it's important to realize that
early
as
game
well.
fights are very important.
Yeah, 100%. And the last question is, who is the hardest person you've ever jungled against?
I've never really had issues against anyone in solo queue, but the only person I feel like that plays super similar to me is Dardog, because he's super calculated, he's consistent, and he's mechanically good. But other than that, no one really. I think season 6 was like Silas, who was pretty on page with me, and then ever since, there's really no one that's been a problem to me.
Cool.
Not to sound cocky, but yeah.
No, that's all good. And you said you jungled against Faker at one point, in one of your videos?
Yeah, basically in season 6 for All Stars, I think it was an NA, and then Faker came, and I played Hecarim versus Lee Sin. Back then, you'd start your buffs, but for some reason, you started Gromp, and then level 2 getting topping off first split. It was like, seemed innovative. I've never seen anyone do that.
Yeah.
But obviously, we still won because we got season 6 Tarzaned, so,
Nice.
So we're back. I hope you enjoyed the video. The last thing I'll say about Tarzaned is this. He helped me a piss ton with my jungling. I'll tell you that much. I just want to say he was really nice to me, and I was super grateful that he took the time out to do this interview. And anybody else who's saying to him, you're toxic, you have to be very aware of the fact that you're also probably toxic, and the only difference between Tarzaned and you is that Tarzan's famous and he's got a camera on him when he's toxic. You're toxic as well, but it just doesn't get recorded. That's the only difference. If you did like the video and if you want to see more jungle content to help you climb the solo queue ladder, then all you have to do is hit the subscribe button below. If you want even more advanced and exclusive jungle content to help you become a better jungler, then make sure you check the description box below for the LOL Educational Academy group. Anyway, I'm going to turn the time back to you. Which part of the video did you prefer the most? Did you like the part about the, staying emotionally stable and not tilting? Or did you prefer the part about the best jungle champions to climb within 8.11? Comment below about which part you preferred the most. Anyways, I'm going to finish this video here. Have a good day. I love you. Stay beautiful. Shana Docs.